All right, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this wonderful Monday night. Yes, Monday night, December 4th, 2023, just before midnight California time. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are watching this on the Tuesday time frame. We did see some interesting earthquake activity out here today, including a 5-pointer on the Big Island of Hawaii, 5.1 to be exact. This earthquake occurring just on the southeastern flank here of Kilauea Volcano. Of course, we have been watching some inflation going on out here. Quite a bit of inflation there, the highest level seen in about 5 years. This earthquake, the 5.1, occurring about 2 kilometers below the surface, and this was felt fairly broadly across the area of the Big Island, with quite a few reports coming in there. Captain Cook and other areas seen and feeling that earthquake that came in earlier this evening. Now, these guys, I'm going to read the informational statement on this here in just a minute, but these guys here are issuing some type of aftershock forecast, and this is something that they've kind of mixed in here. Why, I don't know, but they're stating that obviously there could be an M3 pointer or an M4 coming up here, and these are the percentages following that main quake. But we know the Big Island obviously gets quite a bit of earthquake activity around the Pahala area, so that is basically irrelevant to the activity that's going on here. Now, let me show you guys the informational statement here that the USGS put out on Monday, December 4th, at 5:54 Hawaii time. A magnitude 5.1 earthquake occurred at the Kilauea volcano at a depth of about 1 mile, that's 2 kilometers below sea level. The size and location of this earthquake indicate it is related to shallow movement on the Pali, I believe that's it, system of Kilauea's volcano south flank area, and is not directly related to volcanic activity. I find that hard to believe. When I read that, I had to reread it. And in fact, let me reread this once again for you guys. The shallow movement of this earthquake is on the Pali system of Kilauea volcano south flank, and is not directly related to volcanic activity. I don't think so. 1 magnitude 3 aftershock has occurred. Aftershocks will likely continue. They're acting as if this is some, new activity. Obviously, it's a little bit larger activity than what we've seen, but the area where we're seeing this activity, let me bring up the last 30 days here, is no stranger to earthquakes. It's just a little bit larger and a little bit more shallower here than all these other quakes that we've seen around the Kilauea volcano recently. And it's been, I don't know where exactly the magma plumbing systems are around this area specifically. I think we can see some of them right there on the map. We follow the earthquake trail, right? But I believe this earthquake is more associated with volcanic activity than anything, due to the inflation that's going on out here south of the summit region. And 1.9 kilometers below the surface, that's sea level. I'm not for sure exactly what the elevation is specifically right here, but I believe it is related strictly to volcanic activity. I find that hard to believe that they would state that it's not related to volcanic activity. It just sounds crazy. Kilauea volcano. Look at this tilt meter. Look what happened to the tilt meter when that earthquake came in. There was a dramatic drop, and then it raised back up here. Looks like we are starting to get back to the normal range. There's that drop just barely visible on the 30-day mark. But if you follow this inflation trend here, we're just coming down from one of the highest levels of inflation over the past couple weeks here. This is a little deflation event going on, but not a significant one. We should start pulling back up here. I'm kind of curious to see what type of activity is stirred up following that 5.1. I don't know. I really don't see how they can say it's not related to volcanic activity. That's ridiculous, to say the least. Seismograph stations here picked up nicely that 5.1. There it is right here. There's that 3-pointer that looks like it occurred shortly thereafter. But since then, maybe some smaller microquake activity in that same region. Their earthquake forecast is irrelevant because we know earthquake activity occurs out here all the time. Just crazy. Let me look down here at one of these sites. That one's not even working. How about this seismograph station down here? This one picked it up pretty nicely. Past 6 hours shown that earthquake activity, followed up by that 3-pointer. So it's something to watch. I did get a couple emails from folks stating that they felt it pretty nicely there on the Big Island. And I do have a Hot Caves Hawaii station. Where's it at? Right here. That is one of the stations very close to the Kilauea volcano. We'll continue to watch that and we'll see how it affects the inflation activity there at Kilauea volcano. Again, these guys thinking that it's not related to volcanic activity. And this is kind of new. This event is identified as a potential main shock of an earthquake sequence. Now, this is something new that they're trying. So in this area, specifically in this area right here, they went back to, let's see, let me go here to the newest. They went back all the way to the middle of November, where we've seen a couple other earthquakes within this vicinity. So I don't know how they put this information together and then just call this a main quake. It's weird. Definitely weird. You know, they're trying to bring in new information, but I think we should watch Kilauea volcano pretty closely. We'll see what the inflation activity does. And it's all, there's been so much activity here across the Pacific Plate recently. The Pacific Plate obviously moving. It will affect Hawaii. Hawaii is a hotspot area, right? The Hawaiian Islands proves that hotspot exists as the Pacific Plate moves towards the northwest. You can follow it. There's a trail of the Hawaiian Islands, former Hawaii Islands out there. But for now, goodness. Shortly thereafter, that earthquake as well, we've seen some movement over here in Southern California kicking up, where we did see a 3-pointer coming in. Look at that in the red, and that's in the red because of the amount of people reporting this earthquake. And it struck roughly, let's see here, that one was at 2009. And this earthquake back over here was at 1953. So literally, 15 minutes, almost 20 minutes later, we've seen some activity stirring up here across Southern Cal. Pacific Plate is very, very active right now. Yeah, I think we need to be on guard across all areas for some further movement. Again, there's that 3.5, about 10 kilometers deep. Not for certain which fault system that struck on. There's quite a few that run through the LA Basin area, but it's somewhat kind of deep there, about 10 kilometers deep in this area. Where's the felt reports here? I sure as heck did not feel it. Mostly light shaking, it looks like, out there in Southern California region, limited to the Los Angeles region down here. Just some light shaking being reported, and that's kind of crazy that there was only a handful of earthquakes, or a handful of people reporting this earthquake. Interesting. I've seen it blown up there on Twitter, so you would think more people would be reporting that. All right, so let's see what else has taken place here following this 3.5. Couple other earthquakes in the vicinity of that, 2.3 and a 1.7. But overall, like I said, Southern California has been active, right? Remember a couple days I said to watch California, and sure enough, we've seen, what was it, a 4-pointer that struck down here. Literally, like minutes after I said that. So that was a 4.8. And in basic, looking at this map here, it does look elevated here across Southern California. It's been awfully quiet for the most part. I'd say in the month of November, but things really ramped up here in the last few days. And I still think we need to watch this, be on guard for potentially some more movement, right? You got the San Andreas Fault that sits down here, and it's ready. It's ready to produce an 8.1 magnitude earthquake. Up into the Seattle area, a handful of smaller quakes, it looks like, from this morning and today, or from this evening. Let's see here. A little bit of activity scattered throughout Idaho. Yellowstone National Park. Let's just double check that real quick and see if we're missing anything up there. I don't really see any earthquake activity showing up here. It obviously would. These graphs look properly tuned, so it looks like just things are pretty quiet. There across the Wyoming region, typical activity here across Texas in the oil fields. Still seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity. What do we got right now? 5.6. That earthquake coming in the last 20 minutes or so. Somalia area. That's in the divergent zone out here, the Gulf of Aden. Looks like we did see some activity in the last couple hours specifically in this area. So things are definitely rocking and rolling out here in terms of all the plate movement. Philippines still getting hit with some earthquake activity, but if you notice, they're starting to die down. And that's good news. But we'll still see some aftershock activity, potentially above maybe 5 or maybe even a 6 popping off here. But I think our threat of seeing anything larger out here has diminished for now. Last earthquake in this region shows at 4.6, 43 kilometers deep. The total tally, let's check out the total tally here for earthquakes. 178 earthquakes. Goodness. And these are not microquakes. These are all pretty good sized earthquakes, right? Even if you consider a 4.0 or 4.4, that's somewhat of a moderate quake, right? So 178 good sized earthquakes out here in the last couple days. The main quake, of course, the 7.6. Largest aftershock so far, 6.9. Again, I don't think we're going to see anything above that 7.6. There has been 8 magnitude 8 earthquakes out here in the past. It's been about 100 years or so. I think that's a time frame since we've seen one. But again, we'll continue to watch everything. Up north here into the Japan area, let's see what we got. We got another 4. When was this? 4.9, 11/27. Let's see here. All right, USGS reporting that as a 4.6. But anyway, Japan areas northward awfully quiet. Goodness. I'm really surprised this area has not seen any sufficient movement, but I believe it's capable of easily producing a mega quake up here across the Kuril-Kamchatka. That area has been awfully quiet for so long, and this whole area is reinforced by a couple different plate stresses out there. You got the Pacific plate. That's this big one here moving off to the northwest, the North American and the Eurasia plate here, all putting strain and force on this zone, and it just continues to be quiet. Occasionally we'll see a 4 or 5, but I feel there's enough tension there and pressure built up for a mega quake. Let's see what else, if we've got anything major going on here across the Mediterranean. Looks like a 3.3 coming in right now as we speak. Here in the last few minutes, it looks like, where is that? Outside of Turkey, it looks like a couple smaller earthquakes in that region. The Atlantic Ocean has gone super duper quiet. South America, typical movement down there, nothing out of the norm for now. I think the main areas we need to watch, obviously, is the Pacific Plate. Regions around it for sure. Look at all that activity up there in the Philippines. Crazy. A couple 3s stirring up down here pretty recently in the North Island, New Zealand area. 2.9. Central Australia out there. Kind of an odd area, but they have been seeing a handful of earthquakes out here recently. Definitely very active times right now for earthquake movement. Continue to watch that. All right, let's see what else do we have out here. There's the South America activity. Puerto Rico Trench and the Caribbean Plate here. 4.4 Leeward Islands. That was earlier this afternoon. So things are still somewhat active. I really expected things to drop off sharply following this movement out here in the Philippines, but continues to stay elevated somewhat out here across the Eastern Pacific, including California and the Caribbean Plate here. So definitely still got some potential larger quake activity coming up. Let's see, space weather activity. Let's check this out real quick, see what we got going on. It looks like a little bit of flaring coming up, or right now. on, of course, wouldn't you know, the far side sunspots. These sunspots have been facing us for the past week or so. Now that they're off the western limb, they want to act up and shoot off some good-sized flares out there. Look at this one. Pretty nice looking out there. Way out there across the western limb. Looks like it is peeking up into the M flare category. Getting a little stair-stepping going on there with that solar weather activity. But, again, all this activity is on the western limb. Looks like maybe over here across the northeastern area of the sun, we got maybe a little bit of flaring going on there. Let's see what we got on the magnetogram here. There it is. Looks like just a little bitty baby. Hard to tell. Can't really get a really good glimpse of that right now, but looks like maybe this could be definitely an active region here in the coming days. Numerous sunspots are currently facing us, but they are fairly stable. There's not a whole lot of complexity or growth within any of these. They could have super dark cores out here in the terms of the magnetic image that this image shows, but there's not a whole lot of intermingling of all of these cores in one spot, so it looks fairly stable. Maybe one little region down here still shows a little bit of a small little neighborly connection there between that magnetic core and that sunspot region. Not really expecting any major auroras. There's a slight elevated activity event right now kicking up mainly into the Canada area, maybe Alaska as well. Not really expecting anything major though. And that includes the coming days, unless we get some large CME Earth-directed. That coronal hole that was facing us, well, that really didn't do nothing. The wind stream came in, when was it, last night? I think it was last night or yesterday. And it did not elevate any solar weather activity here on this planet. The auroras were fairly calm. Unfortunately, a lot of times that does happen. We'll hope for some maybe some larger CMEs here coming up. Got to be soon, right? Because we're supposed to be entering into the solar maximum. The new this isn't the new one, but the experimental new model that's been put out shows that things are going to really ramp up here and peak early 2024. But we have taken a fairly sharp nosedive from our peak already earlier this year. And this is the original forecast that was put out, and it shows, at least then, 2025 being the predicted solar maximum. But I'm kind of dipping down there for now. We'll continue to monitor that and see if anything kicks up or gives us some surprises. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 30, X flare around 5% chance. Severe weather, nothing coming up in the next couple days, but there is the possibility of some significant severe weather on day 6. The Space Prediction Storm Prediction Center is forecasting here what looks like maybe a severe weather event. This is going to be for Saturday into Sunday. We'll have to check back on this a little bit later. These things can definitely change, but all models look like they are forecasting some type of event here. We head into the weekend that's going to be associated with this low pressure, pulling in some moisture, creating up maybe some potential for some severe weather. Again, that's going to be Saturday into Sunday. For the West Coast, these storm systems, for the most part, have been hammering the Pacific Northwest. A lot of rain up there recently. We got a little bit. Thank you for sharing at least a little bit of precipitation here for us in Northern California on Wednesday. Not really expecting much. I think maybe around the Chico area, about 1/4 of an inch. And then after that, for the West Coast, things kind of dry out. And the precipitation hammer up here continues into the Pacific Northwest. Maybe hints here as we head into the middle and end of December. The storm tracks could shift south a little bit here into California. But, yeah, I'm just not liking this winter so far, but I'm very hopeful for January, February, and March, where most of the weather models are showing a change with the Pacific jet really slamming into the west coast, Southern California as well, with above average precipitation forecasted for this area. And to me, that's good news. I'm really hopeful that we do have that that potential coming up here. So this is one of the models here that forecast anomalies when it comes to precipitation. This is for November. Let me see here. Can I bring up? Wait, that's November. Wait, no, this is going to be December right here. December. Notice that there's not a whole lot of above precipitation out here. There's no huge anomaly out here. We would want this green, and I think we start to see that in January. Look at that. Wetter than normal conditions over here across this area of the Pacific, slamming into California. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, they're supposed to be drier, and the Storm Prediction Center has set that up. These guys are supposed to see drier conditions here after December, and then we're supposed to be above average precipitation here across the west coast. So that is for January. Into February, that rings true as well. A little bit more deepening of the moisture. That's good news here. About Northern California, maybe the border of Oregon southward. So Southern California, you're going to get wet as well. March stays about the same. That's good, though. If we get 3 solid months there of some good precipitation, I'll take it. And then as we head into April, still somewhat wet here across this area. But it doesn't look like we're going to start seeing that storm track really kick up here in the California until about January. And there's a lot of different models to choose from. Most of these models, if you look at all of them, they all are pretty much trending wetter for the California area, which I will take. I mean, that's actually, look at that model. That's pretty cool. That's a lot of moisture there being aimed for February. April, see what January looks like. It's December. And notice California pretty dry. January looks pretty good as well. So fingers crossed we get a lot more moisture coming up, and we get things wet around here because it's awfully dry here in my neck of the woods. Iceland. Iceland activity has kind of slowed down so much to where I've almost forgotten to update it and cover it. The last update was put out now 4 days ago. So there's not a whole lot going on. It's what is it? Tuesday morning right now. Tuesday morning. Earthquake activity there in Iceland. Let's see what we got. 39 earthquakes, but that includes all of Iceland out here in the last 12 hours. This region around Grindavik. Still seeing some small earthquake activity, but no major change there across this area for now. But it's not completely over. We cannot close the book on that one yet. Still the potential of an eruption. They're thinking northeast of Grindavik, but things are still relatively stable for the most part. So we'll watch this overnight, folks. Most of the seismograph stations here are pretty quiet. I do have several stations up here. Hawaii is going to be the Hot Cave Station right here. That's just south of Kilauea Volcano. Got New Zealand, Philippines, Yellowstone National Park, Mount St. Helens, Japan, station there in South America, Chile, and Petrolia is in Northern California. So I'm just going to keep these up here right now on the live stream and just kind of monitor the activity, which is kind of calm right now. But again, the Pacific Plate is just really crazy right now, and we expect Hawaii to continue to move, right, with the massive amount of movement we've seen over here in the Philippines. It just makes sense. Philippines is not on the Pacific Plate, obviously, but it is connected in a way, right? You got the Filipino plate right here. You move that a little bit, what's going to happen to the Pacific Plate? It's going to move as well. So keep an eye, West Coast, just seeing a little bit of activity jumping up here, and it's been elevated. I still think it wants to move a little bit more than what we've seen. Just be safe, have an earthquake plan, and we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later. Can't say tomorrow because technically it's Tuesday. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys here, I don't know, in about 8-9 hours or so. Take care.